Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Faith and Fandom podcast. Today, I am joined by Matthew Coker. Did I say that right? Cool.
Yep.
I don't know if I've actually said your name out loud before.
Oh, if you could only know the amount of debate Mo and I have had over how to pronounce your last name for the last 2 years. in
So,
fact, in fact, we said it wrong for like a couple months, and then we thought we had it right for about a year. And then just a few months ago, we're like, "Oh gosh, did you hear that when he said it? I never heard that before." It's we've been saying Mira, but it's Mirai
Mirai.
or
Yeah.
Mirai. And every time we heard it, we thought we heard Mira. So that's what we've been saying every time we introduce you in the middle of the show. And here's Faith and Fandom 180 with Hector Mira. And now we're like, Mirai. Dang it.
Well, my story with that is my dad's Puerto Rican. My mom is as deep south as like an old chicken drumstick. I mean, that's where we're at. And so my dad was gone most of my childhood. So my mom always just said Murray.
And that's how I said it at the very beginning when
And
we were first starting out. Yeah.
So my mom would say Murray. And then somewhere, I don't know what happened, somewhere in high school, I gravitated towards Myray. And I was like, I don't know how that happened. But that's by high school. That's what I had landed on.
Wow.
And so I was Hector Myray. And then at my wedding rehearsal, the pastor went through the whole wedding rehearsal. My family from Puerto Rico was in the room. And he said, "I now pronounce you Mr. and Mrs. Hector Myray." My saucy grandma from Puerto Rico, who was about 60-ish at that time, maybe 65 at that time, like jumped to her feet, slammed the table, and I don't want to slam the table for the microphone's sake, but she's like, "No, your name is Mirai." And I'm like, "Oh, snap. Sorry, grandma." And so like that's like, okay, grandma says Mirai. I don't try and roll the R because I'm not that deep, but like he's got an R roll with it and everything. So that's generally where they are on the R roll. And
I don't feel as bad now.
No, dude, I don't even know how to say my own name. And
well, yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's the only thing worse than that is, and I know this is not what anybody's here for, but I remember being maybe second grade, and I was in like elementary school library, and I had checked a book out improperly, or I had done something wrong, and whatever it was wrong was enough to really annoy the librarian. And she got really angry about it, and she came to show me, "I see that you're the last one to check out this book, and look at the damage done," and blah blah blah. And she's like, and she paused and she looked, "I'm sorry, Hector. Obviously somebody else wrote your name in here because your last name's spelled wrong, and I know you wouldn't misspell your own name." And she just walked away, and I'm like, "Oh, I totally did that." And I just let it roll, but it's just like, can't spell it, can't say it, it's whatever.
Well, yeah, the only alternate pronunciation for my name is Cocker, and I hate it, and that's plagued me my entire childhood because kids are cruel.
Yes. Kids are cruel, and that definitely is like the best one. Like, and I think was why I liked Myray is like I had these girls in like high school and early college that would call me My Ray of Sunshine. And I'm like, bro, that's super dope. I like that. You keep calling me that. Then like my name changes. I'm like, oh, well, it's not matter. It doesn't matter anymore anyway. But like I remember being a camp counselor and getting email or getting like snail mail at camp from people like, "Hello, my ray of sunshine." I'm like, but so that's where it's all that total name tangent. So on a short version, because this is very
we made it through the name introduction.
We made it through the names. Tell the people who you are and what you do, like on a whatever vague level you want to give.
All right. I typically go by the name Radio Matt because I am the station manager for LTN Radio, Love Thy Nerds, official exclusive radio channel online at ltnonair.com. We stream 24/7. I basically do 90% of the work for the station. I curate all the music. I schedule everything that goes in. We do put in a whole bunch of Love Thy Nerd exclusive like content. Like we get to, usually with most of the podcasts and stuff for the show, for the network, we get to air those first on LTN radio. And then I also get to host a morning show with my longtime co-host and buddy Megan Mo Oaks, who's been with me for multiple years, recording at least hundreds. I think we're maybe approaching 1,000 hours worth of content together now. But yeah, that's my main gig. It's not my paying gig, but it's my main gig. It's my what's the word I'm looking for? It's what I want to do, I guess, with the rest of my life. It's what I'd be happy doing for the rest of my life, if only eventually I get paid for it.
I've known those things. And what's your actual pay gig? Like, what's your day job?
I am a media director at my local church. It's actually the church I've been going to since I was 14 years old. So over 20 years now, been going to this church. So I'm the media director. It's actually a position I convinced them to create because we needed somebody in charge of everything, because everything looked awful. It was a hodgepodge of garbage for years. Nothing meshed. Logos were non-existent. It was bad. So I'm like, hey, look, this is what I can do, and I can make everything look beautiful if you pay me this and create this job for me. And so I wrote my own job description, set my own pay, and they're like, sure, and they gave it to me. And been doing that for over 10 years now. And I'm too valuable to the church to fire, essentially. That's what I've made myself. I've been home with COVID for the last 2 weeks, last 2 Sundays specifically. And it's like, when I'm gone, the church is on fire. Not in a good way, like burning to the ground. They're begging me to come back. Every time I'm gone, they're like, see, whenever this happens, we realize just how much we don't know how to do. And that's probably a bit on me for not like teaching everybody, but at the same time, it's like Joe Rogan in news radio. I'm the only one that knows where this goes. You can't fire me. So that's what I do.
Which also easily lends to the passion project of the radio station and everything with it. My media director effectively quit today.
Ooh.
And he does a great job. He's done a wonderful job, but he was one of the launch members of this church. And so he's been through 10 years of it, planted 2 campuses in 2 different locations, and he's been through a lot. And so he stepped out. Like, literally, he accepted another church position yesterday. So I'm like, I woke up to the email of, hey, he's gone. So get ready.
Yeah. Ooh.
So
I can imagine the slight terror that must be.
Well, that's going to fall on me now. Yeah. So just by default, because we were supposed to have been a team, but he didn't share well. So
I'm that guy too. I really need to delegate some work.
Because he's really good with graphics, but he's not great with words. And so the deal was supposed to be, you say, Hector, you plan, we're doing this and saying this, and you make the graphic, and then you guys come together and work it out. And then it'd be like, I'd be in the middle of like driving across country on summer vacation. I'm like, oh my gosh, we can't say that. And like literally I had a moment about a year and a half ago where I was literally in the desert in New Mexico and on vacation with my family, and like saw my wife's phone out of the corner of my eye as she scrolled past the post from my church. I'm like, what? like, and then we were pulled over at a rundown hotel outside of Route 66, like, and I'm like trying to damage control, and I'm like, so my life's gonna get real interesting. And I was just like, like I literally like have twitches of, you know, just social media damage control. So we're gonna be doing that, and I'm gonna be making a lot more stuff coming up. But
Yep, I give it, man. It's terrifying, especially running social media for a church. It's just there's a certain line you can't cross, and I don't think that's been any more apparent than this last year with COVID-19 and everything. Just like you got to really be on your tiptoes with how much you're gonna say and what
well,
you can say.
And like 2020 legit was like this testing ground for everything, because
Mhm.
like what's appropriate to say, what's not appropriate to say, and dealing a lot of stuff like with you know, the Sunday with the blackout Sunday, like not the blackout Sunday, but the day where all the social media profiles blacked out, for like
Oh, I don't remember what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, with that day, um you know, literally our church is 3 campuses with 3 different pastors, but we're one church. So
Yeah,
everything's supposed to be like uniform.
yeah.
And even just getting all of us to agree on everything was like, where are we at? And then like, you know, it was just this crazy mix of like what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And we are deep south where um if you say, you know, you and I were talking about this before we hit record, that, you know, there are people that if you say wear a mask to church, you don't have faith. And
Yeah.
so like we literally, you know, if we mentioned that, there were people like, y'all don't trust Jesus. And it's just like, or y'all hate Jesus because you're all not requiring masks. And it's just like, I don't know what we're doing anymore.
All right.
Um,
Do you hate Jesus or you hate your fellow man, your brother and sister? Yeah, either one of them. Yeah.
so and it's just, and the thing, people will take social media however they want without context.
Absolutely.
And
It's awful. It's awful.
well, and you deal with this a lot just because like outside of just the radio stuff in your day job, you also do Back Row Baptist Church as
The
a
Facebook group. Yeah,
the
yeah,
Facebook group. So
yeah.
tell us about that too.
You know, I mean, okay. There's a long story. I'm going to condense it.
Go for it. Because I want to know about like the start of the radio with the name and
Yeah.
everything as well. So
7 or 8 years ago, this was early in the media director position. Maybe it might have been longer than that. It was close to the beginning of that. I was bored during like, it was like an Awana event that I had to run sound for at my church. And so I'm like, I'm going to create a Twitter account. I'm going to create, like, I saw like church curmudgeon and stuff on there. I'm like, this is funny. I'm going to create a church Twitter account. And I created Back Row Baptist, at Back Row Baptist. And within the first 2 hours, I actually got a shout out from Church Curmudgeon, which he had like multi thousands of followers at that point. I think he's in the millions now. I don't remember. But anyway, suddenly this 2 hour old account had several thousand followers within 24 hours. And so I'm like, holy crap. Okay, well, I'm doing this now. And so for several years, I ran like this anonymous, just Christian church joke humor account, and I had a blast doing it. And eventually God put it on my heart, is like, look, you got 14,000 people following this account. That's a platform. And you have a story and a testimony that I have put you through and brought you out the other side of. And 14,000 people, I'm sure a few of those are going to listen to it. So I fought that for months, and eventually I gave in. I shared my testimony, shared everything, revealed who I was and all that. And most people stayed. Not a whole lot of people, engaged with that aspect. They just wanted the funny jokes, and that was fine. But we kind of separated into two different things. We did the humor, we did the healing. We did, we did like a recovery focused section, and we did a just laugh to get through the pain kind of section of our ministry. And that grew into like a blog, and then eventually skipping it grew into a podcast called the Back Row Baptist Podcast, which got fairly popular pretty quickly just because of that outlet. I think we got up to 23,000 followers on Twitter at one point at our top. And as we were doing the podcast, we started reaching out to independent Christian artists, independent Christian bands and rap artists and stuff that you don't typically hear. We're like, hey, we need like breaks, and so we want to feature your music in our breaks. And we did that we did, I think, 125 episodes, and at least 115 of those had a different Christian artist. And by that point, I'm like, man, and that was just all that we had played. We had hundreds of tracks submitted to us. I'm like, I've got so much independent Christian music right here. We could start our own radio station. And so I looked into it and did a little more research and found a cool, website that would help you build your own online radio station. It's very easy, very intuitive, not that much money. Took care of all the licensing fees and all that. But then I realized, most radio stations have like 2,000 to 3,000 songs in rotation, so they don't just replay ad nauseum. So we're like, well, let's just open it up. This is going to pay for our licensing. Let's just do a Christian radio station like we've always wanted. Not just, I don't want to bash on Caleb. We pull jokes on Caleb every now and then, but I actually, for the most part, really
That was
appreciate
legit
that
going to be my
ministry.
next question. Why do you hate Caleb?
I appreciate their ministry. And there was even a long season of my life where they were very beneficial. And I don't know if this is still the case, but one of my favorite things about their ministry is that at least at one point, they made it a goal to put a transmitter, whatever, near every single prison in America to make sure that anybody in there could listen to it and get that kind of, hope in their soul. So that's my favorite part, I think, of their ministry. I hope it's still active. But anyway, all that aside, Caleb is great for people who that's the audience for it. It's really gotten to be one sound, and they had Air One radio for such a long time, which gave you a little bit more rock and a little bit more mix into it, and then they flipped it, man, and now it's just worship. It's the same thing except even more just focused on one thing. I was so mad when they did that. But anyway, there was a station growing up here in New Mexico that used to be big, and it was called M88 Massive Radio, and they focused on Christian rock, Christian rap, Christian indie stuff that you don't hear all the time, some of the odd stuff, electronica, all this kind of stuff. And they're now, I think, Star 88, and they've also kind of fallen more into the CCM music with just a hint every now and then of something else, and it made me sad. So I'm like, let's make the station we want. Let's put Christian rock, rap, and pop and indie in the forefront. We had a heavy indie mix to begin with. I think our launch day we had 25% independent artists, and we transitioned the podcast to a 4-day-a-week morning show, which quadrupled our output and recording time, and all of that. But we still wanted like a humor center. We still wanted some way to connect with the people that have been following Back Row Baptist for such a long time, and then bring more people into the fold and get content from them as well for the shows. And so we started up, I think it was originally called Side Hugs. That was our original title for the Facebook group, Side Hugs. And we eventually closed down the Twitter account for Back Row Baptist, and just basically moved all our humor resources over there. So it became just this meme and joke Christian sharing group called Back Row Baptist Church. And our goal is to make it different from all the other ones. And I'm getting in a bit hot water just right now because of all the garbage going on with social media, censorship and all that kind of stuff. But we lay out the rules of, dude, we want to have fun here. We don't want you to debate and be grumpy and be turds in the comment section. Our first command, we have 4 commandments, 4 back row commandments. Those are our rules. And the first one is, thou shalt not be a turd. We just don't want you to come in here and pick apart everything and debate doctrine and debate politics and get grumpy. We just want to come here and laugh. And if you find something you don't like, just scroll to the next one because you laugh at the next one. And let's just be nice and friendly. And I think we just hit 8,000 members on that because we're very persnickety. You have to answer the question. You got to prove you have a good sense of humor, and we'll kick you out. I think we reject just about the same amount of people as we accept into the group, simply because we can tell when they're just grumps, just just nasty people that are gonna get all up in our business about it.
Does the smaller number like discourage you at all? Like going from like the bigger numbers
The
on Twitter?
22,000. No, actually, you know what we did? We didn't close down Backer Baptist. We transitioned that to the radio station account. So we still have a decent following on at LTN on air over at Twitter because it started there. But no, not really, because frankly, if we had 22,000 people in that Facebook group, I'd kill myself. It's hard to keep up with the 8,000 that we have now, even with the moderators that I have. But no, what's good about it, and it's the same thing that I like about like Love Thy Nerds online community, is that the vast majority of the people in the group are active. Like they're there every day. They're commenting, they're liking, they're sharing their own stuff, as opposed to Twitter, which over the years, because there's been so much fall away from people either just, yeah, I'm not going to do it anymore, but not deleting their account. So they're still following us, but they're not interacting with anything. You know, there's not as much interaction on Twitter, and there never was as much as we have right now in the Facebook community. So I enjoy the Facebook community far more, and I'm not discouraged at all by the drop.
So outside of just that stuff, I know you've done the radio station, and I know you have the Facebook group. You've also put out like merch and games and stuff.
For a while, we get into that every now and then. The first thing I think we ever came out with was a collection of some of my best tweets, jokes. It's books. I think the book's still on Amazon. Please Don't Side Hug Me, the best of Back Row Baptist. That was fun to put together. I still have a whole nother book's worth of content that I might put together one day. But yeah, we came out with merch. We originally got connected with ODG Apparel and put out some merch. We put out the shirts that had the "Thou Shalt Not Be a Turd" stuff and some other Back Row radio specific stuff. But because of COVID-19 and the hit of everything, they basically had to stop their collaborations with everybody. And so that fizzled out. But yeah, the big thing, I guess the coolest thing in my opinion, it wasn't the biggest thing because we didn't really sell a whole lot. But the coolest thing and probably the funnest project that we had done outside of the normal route is the card games is what we made. Essentially we made one semi board game, but the card games were the big deal. We did a game called Juggernaut, which is our best seller and has several like extensions. What are they called? Expansions. Sorry.
Yeah.
Expansions. I have it around here somewhere, actually. I don't know where I put it now. Oh, here it is. Judge Not, a Christian game of specs and planks. It's essentially a game where you have a whole bunch of offenses. Let's see. You read an offense. Who's secretly writing a new Christian Amish romance novel? And so it's a group game. You play with people that you know, and you all kind of judge. You're the jury, and you all pick who in your group is most likely to have done this thing. And I won't get into the whole rule set here because it's kind of complicated to begin with. But yeah, we've got a whole bunch of Christian cliches here. Who's spending most of their paycheck at Hobby Lobby? We have some spicy ones too. Let's see. Who's rushing to do 5 days worth of Bible study worksheets the day of the next meeting? You ever done that? Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah.
Who's
That's
going
me.
to the church business meeting just because they like to argue about dumb stuff? Yeah.
Who's
Stuff
the
like
one
that.
writing the sermon they're about to pitch like 5 minutes before you do it? Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. Here's one that was inspired by Bubba Stalkup, our friend over at Love Thy Nerd, who's late to a job interview but still able to get the job. And that's him right there. He can do that. This dude, there was a movie shot in our town, and he managed to be the first person on screen in this movie, and he wasn't an actor. I don't know how he did it. He inspires me. He talks his way into a lot of cool stuff. But anyway, we did this, had a lot of fun putting this stuff together, and sold a decent amount of copies of this game and some of the expansions. Did one called Back Row Baptist, which was more of a classic like Bible game where we had Bible trivia. It was like a board game kind of setup, but we had Bible trivia, and then we added some more fun cards like Joel Osteen or fortune cookie cards, who said it kind of stuff, all this extra stuff. And then the latest one that we came out with, which unfortunately we just didn't get traction on, but we were very proud of, was called Church Flicks. And it was creating a better Christian movie. And essentially it plays very similar to Cards Against Humanity, except instead of like a scenario with a blank to fill in, what you have is a short scene from a movie with dialogue, and then the last line is the line that you're filling in, and then all the other cards have lines of dialogue, and so you're playing the funniest line of dialogue to end that scene. We were proud of it, and I don't know, I might try and push it again in the future. I don't know. We had a whole bunch of ideas for expansion packs and that as well, but it's so time consuming. It really
I was going to ask
takes so
because
much work.
I know how time consuming and frustrating it is just to put out a book. So like a board game to me just seems like ridiculous.
It was a monster. It took me the better part of 2 years to get that first version of Church Flicks ready to go. It just took all my time.
All the board games together, how much time do you think you put in?
All of them together? 50, 60 hours, maybe. I mean, not terribly a lot, but when it comes to my schedule, just like I don't have that. I don't have an extra hour in the week to devote to it, let alone trying to find that. So that's why it took me over a year, because I'm saying like maybe I could get an hour in a week kind of thing to get this stuff done. But I say that's really just designing it now that I think about it, because I also had to like write all that content, come up with those. Well, the big one was the scripts and stuff for that. So no, I take that back. It was much longer than that.
I was about to say, dude, that's a lot of work and a lot of individual cards and production.
Yeah. Production was easy because we used the Game Crafter, and so they really build everything for you.
Okay.
So that was nice. And Canva, we use Canva for all our designs, and that was easy.
I mean, I love me some Canva.
Godsend. Canva's a godsend, man.
I'm milking everything I can out of the free version of it before I start paying.
I went premium, dude. I ain't looking back. It's great.
I did somebody's design for a business while I was watching like TV, or no, just in load screens on a video while I was doing load screens. So I was like, oh, this is great. But now that I'm actually have to do this on my real time, I'm gonna okay, let's go ahead and upgrade this. I'm sure the computer I'm about to inherit has all the bells and whistles and programs, but so
we did have one more card game, which I was very proud of. And this was actually Mo's idea, and it was called Punishment Deck. And what it was is it wasn't a game unto itself. It was a game that basically you could use it as like truth or dare, like for the dares, but it was essentially like the punishment of, if you lose this round, then you got to pull a card out of the deck and do this thing. And so some of them, I think one of my favorite was Mystery Squirt, where you had to close your eyes and someone in there got to go into the fridge and pull something out and squirt it into your mouth. You didn't get to know what it was. One was eat a full sheet of toilet paper. These kind of things that were relatively family friendly, but that you could do with stuff that was already in your house. But we had, it was brilliant, and we were pushing it. And then a year later, another company came out with the exact same game, and I have no idea if they saw ours on camera, because I mean on camera, on the Game Crafter, because I do know that happens. Like, they'll go to the Game Crafter, which is independently published games, take that idea and then build something else, and then like they'll have money, Kickstarter or whatever, and make it bigger and better. And in fact, that's happened quite recently, but I'm not going to get into that with another friend of mine. Uh, but I don't, I can't say for sure that they stole our idea, but it
I
was
still get saucy about people stealing memes without crediting, so I'm just like, no.
It's the exact same game. So we kind of stopped pushing it because theirs looked way better than ours. And yeah, they were on national TV talking about it. And so, well, all right, fine.
I designed a shirt for a summer camp like in 2005. And then I saw maybe it wasn't Lifeway, but it was a large Christian corporation pushing the exact shirt I designed. Like, literally looks like they just took my shirt and
drew it themselves. And
I don't even know that they did that. I think they just like took my shirt and said, "Here, copy this." But like, we were like a small Bible camp in the woods in North Carolina. I'm like, I can't fight you, so I'm just gonna go.
Right. Yeah. You just know that no, there's no way. There's no way I'll be able to beat this here.
So you've had a thriving online presence of humor by and large.
Yeah.
You've had your hand in the board game world. You've created a radio station not just because you hate K-Love, and but because you actually wanted to create that. Dude, I think that's a lot. Like, especially for that not to be your like full-time world.
Yeah.
That's a lot of input into the world there.
Dude, radio's in my blood, honestly. I'm a third generation radio guy, and I know most legitimate radio people wouldn't consider me a legitimate radio guy because it's an online radio station. But my grandfather and my dad have both been station managers. I've worked in the radio industry since I was a teenager. I've done literally every job there is to do in a radio station. So I mean, I've been pursuing something like this for a long time. So when I say that I'd love to do this the rest of my life, it's not just because, hey, I stumbled upon this really cool thing, but I mean, it's really been my dream since a kid. Like, I love music. I love the romantic side of radio. Just, it's almost, with Spotify and everything else out there where you can just pick whatever you want to listen to immediately on demand, it's almost a bit too sterile for me. Like, radio is a art form. It's where you trust someone else to bring you into a new world. It's a place to discover artists completely outside of your mindset, completely outside of what you would consider your area of expertise, and find some be transported somewhere else by another amazing artist you've never even heard of. And that's kind of my goal. And like, I'm not hating on Spotify at all. I think, in fact, that Love Thy Nerd Radio, LTN Radio, can go hand in hand with people using Spotify. It's just, look, you want to find something new, come listen to us for a little while, discover someone new, and then go check out all that they've ever done over on Spotify. It can be a balancing act, and both beneficial for each other. But yeah, it's something that's been in my soul for a long time. So even if I never get paid for it, I'd like to keep doing it.
So, as you've mentioned, like when I discovered you and what you're doing, it was Back Row Radio, and then less than a year ago,
too, man.
Huh?
And you helped out too, man. You created content for us. It was awesome.
And it was a pleasure.
Still do.
Yay. I got to do that as soon as we stop this. I was like, I hope he doesn't mind if it's late, because I'm hanging out with him. But like, it was Back Row Radio, and then it wasn't within the last year, right? It was like October.
Yeah. Past October is when we've been working on it since June, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, October was the launch because we wanted to coincide with LTN Con, which was originally going to be in
Yeah, in
person,
person.
but became an online thing.
So in October, like you made the announcement and everything that Back Row Radio was becoming LTN Radio. So just tell us about that transition, like what that is, what that means, what's different other than the name.
So with Back Row Radio, you know, as I said, we had so many different back row things going on back then when we first started, and as we went on, more and more of our focus was just around the radio station. And so, we kind of stopped making games. We stopped the Twitter account. We stopped the blog. We stopped all these other things because we were focusing on the radio station, the show, and by extension, just the Facebook group community, because that was a part of the show's community. And as we went on and on, the idea of what the ministry's purpose behind Back Row Radio was kind of getting lost in the name, because Back Row Radio doesn't make any sense to anybody walking in off the street. It doesn't, someone who's never heard it before, well, why are they called this? And we didn't explain it. We didn't have a promo going every day. Oh, here's why this is our name, by the way. Just it started bugging me, because it seemed like we didn't have a focus beyond just play good music. We wanted a ministry focus. And I've been in love with the idea of Love Thy Nerd as a ministry for ever. Bubba came down, I think, the first few months of Love Thy Nerd's launch back in 2018.
Whenever it was like
Somewhere
a
around there.
February or something.
Yeah, I think it was February of 2018. February. So I think he came down in like March or April for the podcast, for the Back Row Baptist podcast, long before we did the radio station. And we did a joint podcast of Free Play and Back Row Baptist podcast, because that's their main one over on Love Thy Nerd, or it was their main one at the time. And so he shared with me the vision behind it and what they were hoping to do, and the ministry. And I'm just like, this is the dopest thing I've ever heard of. How can I kind of be a part of it? And so initially, the first bit of connection was you. We had you come on, and currently what you do for us is Faith and Fandom 180, which is essentially just kind of like similar to your book, right? It's very similar to how you write your chapters in your book, just condensed into
Just
like a
real
3-minute
condensed.
thing. Yeah.
Dude, on that note, like I've been in the process of posting all of the chapters from the books individually to our website.
Your new website. Yeah.
And I freaking write too much. Like, because I haven't looked at these things in one conglomerate ever.
Yeah.
And like book 4 is our biggest book, and like I sat down, like my family was watching something I've seen before, so I'm just sitting on the corner of the couch, like copy, paste, format, copy. I'm like, I hate all of this. And I'm like, I literally just looked at it, I'm like, how do you people read all this mess? And like, but I was like, I'm like, oh, gross. I hate all of it. I hate everything. But I hate everything when it's in the middle of it.
But yeah, so we reached out to you and them, and we're like, we want to make a Love Thy Nerd specific short, just something that played through. And so we created Love Thy Nerd's Critical Hit with Hector Mirai. And you came and did these cool little 3-minute things for us. And we had a Friday morning show that was produced by another group, another couple of dudes that we didn't really know personally, but they had been doing a podcast for a while. It was very entertaining. Like, this sounds like a morning show. So they were doing our Friday morning show, but eventually one of them got engaged and the other one was moving away. And they're like, you know what, we can't do this weekly anymore. And so I reached out to Bubba. I said, can I just like steal Free Play and I'll chop it up and make it into like a morning show for our Fridays while we try and find someone else? He said, dude, if we're going to do a morning show, why don't we just do a morning show? And so they came up with Church Nerds, which was an exclusive Back Row Radio morning show with Bubba and Anna Stalkup. And so now we had like 2 things going that were Love Thy Nerd content. And as I got more and more bugged by the idea of I don't have a purpose. We don't have a focus. We need something to focus. I'm just like, it would be really cool if we could just go all in. And so I just called up Bubba. I'm like, hey, let me pitch something to you. And if you hate it, just say, pass, and I'll never bring it up again. And I laid out what I wanted, and he was really cool about it. He loved the idea, but he was really worried about me because he's like, Back Row, that name has been your baby for nearly a decade. And we wouldn't want to just come in and erase that. So you need to really pray and be sure that that's the direction that you want to go before we go any further. So, I really focused, I really prayed about the idea, but uh, all signs pointed to yes. And so we preserved it by changing our morning show name back to the Back Row Morning Show. And so that's still what it is on LTN Radio. So we still have that connection to what Mo and I have been doing for the last several years. But we couldn't be more all in with Love Thy Nerd. But the station did change just a bit. The music's still the same. We still, still have mostly just Christian rock, rap, pop, and indie, most of our day. But a lot more content. We have morning shows and afternoon shows. We have a Sunday like message, which you've done a couple of for us. We've done special music blocks now. We have an 80s night, which completely breaks the format because it's not even just Christian, like best 80s music of all time that we play for an hour on Throwback Thursdays. We have a reggae hour on Tuesday nights, which was Matt Warmbier and Bubba Stallcup's baby. But I mean, it's fun because we can do whatever we want. But now we have a more of a focus. We have a more focused ministry. We have a more even a more focused like listenership. And I was worried that we'd drop listeners, that we'd lose listeners, that our numbers would go down. Our numbers have tripled. We have 3 times as many people listening for 3 times the amount of time each month, which with the service that we use, we pay by total hours listened. And once we get to a certain point, we have to pay more, jump up a tier in order to cover the licensing costs, because licensing is stupid in this country, the way they do it. But I'd never gotten anywhere close, not even halfway to that prior to this jump to LTN Radio. And we're getting there. I'd say within a year, we're going to have to jump to the next level. So I couldn't be more happy with how it's gone. I couldn't be. I'm sorry. I'm realizing I'm looking at you and not looking at the camera.
I've looked at you the whole time, so I mean it's like legit because I'm looking at your face, and then like I had a warning saying flash was expired, go away, and I'm like oh gosh, what just happened?
But I mean it's gone great, and it was a lot easier of a transition than I thought. The hardest transition has just been the amount of work that I have to do behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And I know like the podcasters have had a hard time readjusting because they're having to make now, all the podcasts kind of have to be in 3 segments, so we can fit in on air a music break, and then on the podcast we fit in some of our shorts that we make, because we have 6 or 7 different shorts that we make each week. And so a break in the discussion, a little bit more defined thing. And so I know that they're still kind of working on that and working out the kinks, but it's a learning curve for all of us. But I think overall it's going really well, and it can only get better from here, in my opinion.
Well, I think you had told me in advance a little bit that it was happening, and like I'm all for teamwork and I'm all for, us working together. But like my first honest thought, like, just like for your one, I was concerned about your well-being, because I'm like I'm like that's super ambitious, homie.
Yeah,
I'm
I
like
remember that.
I'm like you're gonna die. But I was concerned for you, but like, and then like on a I'm not going to say it's fleshly, but it's more just analytical. On an analytical level, I'm like, on a real level, you have currently, I think we just hit 3,000 members or 3,000 people in the LTN community.
Yeah.
Um, you had, 8,000 plus in the back row community when you guys made that shift. And I'm like, it felt weird to see you take a bigger it felt like a bigger brand name,
Yeah,
like downshifting down to what, by just numbers sake, because obviously I believe in LTN and the ministry that it does, and I've been a day one, ride or die person for that. I followed the wreckage from Game Church. I'm here. And and it's one of those things of like, it just felt weird to see you voluntarily, like, almost, it felt like a humbling thing to me that you were willing
sure.
to, you know, put your own brand backwards for the greater good of that sense.
Yeah, and I remember that conversation we had. And honestly, I think I said this to you then. I feel like back row served its purpose, and it did what it needed to do, and it kind of ran out of what it needed to do. And if I had ever wanted to jump to a new ministry, that was the one. And there was no better time. I mean, God paved the way pretty easily for everybody. All the higher ups, the founders over there at LTN were all on board. Some of them were like, okay, I don't know what this means, but whatever, sure, let's do it. Sounds good. But a lot of them were like, oh, that's awesome. What? We're gonna have a radio station? That's dope. And so I'm like, yeah, it's been confirmed to me multiple times that this was the route that God wanted us to take, and it's only been beneficial so far. I haven't seen any downside, backlash, anything else. Nobody in the our yes we brought a lot of listeners with us. In fact, we got a lot of people that have been listening since the start of the podcast back in 2016. They've been riding with us all the way till now, and none of them are like, boo, this sucks. Go back to the way it was. There's like, what? More stuff. This is cool. A lot of them have been joining the Love Thy Nerd Discord and getting more involved with all these other nerdy pursuits. Like,
And I
I
feel
think
so old. I feel so old because I suck at Discord. Like, I look at Discord like, an elderly person in 1990 would looking at a smartphone. It's just like,
I felt that way. I felt that way at first. In fact, it was just today. Because we have COVID, we've been working from home, and we only have the one laptop. So for about 5 hours a day, my wife has to log into her desk at her work, and so I'm sitting here just goofing around on my phone, and I'm on Discord. I'm like, I've been on Discord for an hour. Like, I know what I'm doing. It's like, click, hey, this is a thing now. This is cool. I don't even want to go to Facebook right now. I'll
I
just go stay
had
here.
straight up anxiety trying to navigate around Discord at
It's
LTN Con
yeah,
online.
it's terrifying at first. That was my first connection to it too, is LTN Con. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Well,
I'd never even been on Twitch at that point, so that was my first time on Twitch and on Discord for
I've
LTN
I've
Con.
still not I've still not twitched. Like, I twitch, but not
Not that way.
online. Just my left eye with stress.
But no,
Like,
I
I think
love Twitch and Discord now. These are my favorite things
I think
at the
even
moment.
pre LTN, Bubba had done a podcast with me where with Discord, and this would have been, like 2016, 2017, and I'm just like, I don't know what's happening. Um, it's like I like to find the little things I know how to do
Yeah.
and stay there.
But no, it's cool because we got to do a live morning show it was like our Christmas morning show on the Love Thy Nerd Twitch channel, which is really fun. It's fun to interact with people as they're chatting and going about watching along with you. But Mo and I got to do a live like 2 hour thing where we ended with the one chip challenge, which was brutal. But it was a blast, and that gave me like the bug, dude, for Twitch. And so I've weaseled my way into I get to host Tuesday nights for Love Thy Nerds games, that they air most nights of the week. I get to do Tuesday nights now, and I get to lead an Among Us game every Tuesday night with Discord's voice chat as the option. So I mean, it's fun as all heck. I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. And
So
that's about as gaming as I get, by the way.
that's the thing. Like, I'm not saying I'm antisocial, but like I've realized I'm only an extrovert with a platform.
Mm,
Like if I can be a absolute extrovert as long as I've got something to hide behind, whether it's a microphone or a table, a booth, a podium, whatever. Give me something to hide behind. I'm great. Just put
yeah.
me in a room of people. I'm the most awkward salmon human when it comes to that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
so like I've not gotten into that with gaming. Like even like with games like Destiny 2 or Halo
Mhm.
or Call of Duty, and I'm not that much of a fan of a Call of Duty. Um, but like I played a lot of Destiny, and even with Destiny, I'm like, I don't like to talk. I'm just like,
Yeah, and no,
oh,
dude, I'm the
pew
same
pew
way.
pew pew.
In fact, before Among Us came out, the last game that I actually wanted to play multiplayer more than the time, aside from Mario Kart, because I don't really count that, because Mario Kart, everybody loves Mario Kart. But the last game that I really wanted to play multiplayer was GoldenEye, dude, on the N64. I am king solo gamer. I don't want to talk to anybody, don't want to do anything else, don't want to run a campaign with you, co-op, nothing. But Among Us for some reason has just sparked this love in me, man. I am all in on
I
Among Us.
I'm burnt out on it, um, just because uh, when it first dropped, really dropped, my youth group was meeting, you know, somewhere, I don't know, middle of the towards, I guess, October, November, somewhere in there. I took over doing youth pastor duties at my church.
Mm,
So now I'm about to have that
and
uh
media director duty.
and media director. I don't like life.
If it helps, dude, I'm also the janitor at my church, so
I
there's
saw you
that
making
too.
jokes about
Yeah.
that back in the day, and I'm like, oh, for real, homie. Um, but so there's a guy that's over games, one of our volunteers, and he's a freaking awesome human. Um, he's like the wildlife person. What do you call him? He's like the cop for wildlife, for fishermen and stuff. Game
Ranger?
warden, game warden. He's the
I
game
don't
warden.
know. Okay, gotcha.
So he's the game
Park
warden.
Ranger? Power
Yeah,
Ranger?
it's something in there. He's the game warden for our area, and so he moves like a cop the whole time and everything. Um, but I said, come up with a game for this month's whatever. He's like, bro, I got it. We're doing live action Among Us.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay. And so they did it. Like everybody had tasks to do, and they used the whole church building. And then you'd hear some kid scream, dead, dead body, dead body. And like they'd all come to the emergency meetings and stuff. I was like, that's cool. That's cool. And I was like, what's for next week? And he's like, oh, we're gonna do that again. I'm like, okay. Dude, we did live action Among Us every Sunday from like October to January. And I'm like, please stop. Please. And I told him, I was like, hey homie, let's get a good Christmas game for like the last couple, Sundays of the year. He's like, Christmas Among Us. We'll use candy canes. And so like I bought Among Us when it came for the Switch. Because my two oldest daughters are in youth group. And
Yeah.
so I was like, look, I'm gonna buy Among Us. Don't ask me to play. I was like, I'm done with it. Um, so to ask you this, you've obviously had a big year, like year to date, in terms of getting LTN radio to where it is.
Mhm.
Um, do you have any big future plans for it?
You know, that's an ever-changing answer right now. I mean, when it comes to something mapped out, no. We kind of are seeing this right now as an experimental year with it. We're gonna evaluate come probably September or so how it went, if we want to continue on with this, if it needs to change in some form or fashion. So far, it's been going great, but we don't know what that translates into moving forward, other than the fact that it's got to work hand in hand with the podcast network, which is looking into creating a bunch of new shows, not just like constant shows. Some are going to be like 8-week miniseries type shows that happen a couple times a year. But they have a lot of plans for that, and that kind of ties into what our plans are for the radio station. And that's the balancing act that's been difficult. And I honestly I don't really know where it goes from here, which is probably bad. But
There's some
it's
steps that
gone.
are bigger than others, and you just need to pay attention to that one step for a while.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I honestly didn't expect it to go this well from launch. I thought it would take a lot more convincing for the community, the LTN community, and for the people that we were already having as active listeners of, hey, this is a good idea, and keep listening or start listening. I thought it would be a more difficult road, and to see that 300% jump in listeners and total hours listened as well, we were all kind of blown away by that. And I guess what I'm saying is the radio station has never been this successful, and I don't know what to do. Do I mess with things or do I leave it how it is for now? And there's only so much a radio station can do. I don't have a good answer for that right now. Hopefully I'll get a little bit more clarity as all of LTN kind of meshes together. But yeah, it's definitely seems to be something that's going to be kept around for a while. And I think it's just going to be we want to be the soundtrack for all of our nerds. We want to be something that is a part of your daily life. And so to have our content on there, most of it like originally starting on there before it goes to their podcast feeds, is a cool feature, because you get to be in the know beforehand. But to also tie in with other events, we're thinking of trying to do some things for the next LTN con, maybe that's specific to the radio station at certain points, like before or after the main like on air or main live, whatever they decide to do next year, bits. We have something that's exclusive to the radio station. There's a bunch of different little ideas that we've had, but for now I think it's just keep doing what we're doing, and when we get requests for new things, see where it goes, see how much enthusiasm is behind that. But yeah, we're open, I guess. We're doing what I think we're supposed to be doing, and we're open to whatever God wants to do with it in the future. And that's the only place we can be right now.
So ask you this, how much does it cost to maintain what you're doing at the radio level?
Dude, you'd be surprised. Right now, the hosting of everything, the scheduling, the running it, the always on air, the licensing, all that is like $70. It's the rest of the cost is just like purchasing the music to air, which you can get music a little bit cheaper as a radio station as opposed to buying it on iTunes or whatever. iTunes doesn't exist anymore, but anyway, you can. No, it's Apple Music now, right? Didn't they get rid of iTunes altogether?
Dude, I don't mess with them.
Pretty sure they did. But anyway, yeah, it's just that. And so I budget how much I'm going to use in that, but it's really I'd say less than $100 a month for most months. It's really not that much.
That's pretty awesome.
I remember asking my wife about it. I remember when we were first going to launch, I'm like, this is what I really want to do, and I know we don't have the money for it. And so you tell me what you're willing to do. And she said, you're right, we don't have the money for it, so you need to get people to financially back this, and if you can get like 80% of the funding, then you can do it. In 2 weeks we were well over fully funded with supporters, and so works for me, and we did it. So I've not had to pay really much at all out of my own pocket ever for the radio station, which is dope. And so I usually do, like, what I've done instead of that is I'll pay out of my own pocket to make stickers or other merch to give out and do kind of advertisement that way. Um, but yeah, it's not that much at all. Like, anybody could do it. It just takes a lot of time. It takes a heck of a lot of time. But yeah, I mean, you could start one right now. Faith and Fandom Radio right
Nope.
now.
No, I'm good. This is the official dubbing of All Faith and Fandom Radio goes directly to LTN Radio because nah, fam. I'm good. I'm expended. I'm good.
Shaq has his own radio station using the same company and format that we use, by the way, just so you know.
So
I find that amazing.
that is amazing. I got tapped the same week that 180 launched. I got tapped the same week that 180 launched by my local newspaper to writing a full devotional for our local newspaper that churches could adapt into their own Sunday school material if they wanted.
Really?
Yeah.
The newspaper was doing this?
The newspaper. And it's
Wow.
the newspaper from my region, and they're like, we want to put it out on Friday, so if churches want to use it for Sunday school material, they can. I'm like, okay. And like, I was burning my bridges, just taking on too much stuff, but I was like, man, that sounds like too good of a ministry opportunity not to do. And
Yeah.
so somewhere in there, I'd say probably by December of doing that, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to use whatever I do on Faith and Fandom 180 and just take out the nerd content. And so, like, for the last however long, I've just been like, whatever I do for Faith and Fandom 180,
whatever the lesson is, just put that as
I'm gonna take that out and make it as I'm gonna try and make it as muggle-fied as possible so that we can do that.
That's
So just ask you this before we get out of here: how can we pray for you?
Well, you know, there's a lot of stress with this, because essentially with not just specifically with the radio, but I essentially do 4 part-time jobs, 2 of which I get paid for, 2 of which I do not. And one of those not paid for takes up a lot of my time. So to not stress out and to be willing to delegate things probably is something that needs to be prayed for me. But the other thing, and I didn't want to touch on this too heavily, but I do want to make mention of it. The fourth one, because I told you I'm media director, I'm janitor, radio station manager. The other thing I do is I actually lead a chapter of a worldwide ministry in my community called Celebrate Recovery. And it's a faith-based 12-step program for pretty much everything that you could struggle with. So it's not just like drugs and alcohol, but it's overeating, pornography, overspending, gossip, anything that you do habitually that you need to get over, because essentially that addiction works the same way in the brain for everybody. And so these 12 steps, are, they work. They're biblically based. They always have been, even when AA started, and they work well. And that ministry is where the other half of my heart is, because we're not a big church, but we were like a secondary CR that started in our town, and there was a big church that had a CR, and that was the main one, and then they stopped, and so we became the big one. And so we have CRs that have just as many or more people than we typically have on a Sunday every week. And I run those. And it's a full service plus the small groups and stuff like that. And so I want, if you could pray for me in any way, it would be to keep that fire for this ministry, because if I'm about to burn out on anything, it's that. I've been struggling, and I know you've even mentioned this, I think, in our last in your last Faith and Fandom 180. I've been struggling with my weight for years, and the thing that's killing me is that I feel like a failure as a leader with CR. You know what I mean? Because overeating is an addiction. It's something that I've dealt with for my entire life, something I learned from my parents. And though that's not what brought me to CR, my whole testimony's online if you ever want to search it out. But and I found freedom from that. You know, I'm over 10 years clean from what brought me into CR. But this overeating thing has been this crutch for a long, long time. And pre-COVID, like October of last year, or I'm sorry, 2019, I actually finally started making progress. I lost between there and I want to say June of 2020. I lost 97 pounds of the 200 that I need to lose. Almost halfway there. But then the overwhelming stress and depression that just hit us all, you know, as a world at that point brought all my progress to a halt and then reversed it, and I gained every single one of those pounds back.
Oh, bro, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just it's devastating. It really is to have gotten so far farther than I've ever gotten, and then just to not be able to hold on to it at all. And so the thing that I'm struggling right now is just, you know, I don't feel worthy enough to lead this group because I can't even get my own crap together at all. And I know that's not the right biblical mindset to keep with this stuff,
No,
but you know, that's the thing that I guess that's what I have a lot of people pray with me for, is both the need to keep going and to trust God in the process and to keep working the process that I know works because he's delivered me from something else by using this process. But also to not let that taint my desire to actually be a mentor and a help and a sponsor to people through this ministry. And for all those, because what's going on with me is going on with every single person in a recovery group right now. This whole last year has been the worst year for mental health and for addictions, and that's where my heart breaks. You know, that's what my heart's breaking for, not just for my own struggle, but for so many people. There's been so many people that have stopped coming, that have fallen away, that I know, you know, weren't at a place to stop coming, you know. And it's a tough gambit right now. It's just a tough racket to be in, and keep and keep being positive, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It's tough pushing this recovery stuff when nobody wants to be recovered right now. Everybody wants to go back into their addiction to just survive mentally, and ultimately that's the worst thing that we could do. And you know, my prayer would be, yeah, my request would be would be, let me put it, let's succinct it here, that I can get my crap together and stop getting in my own head and letting this depression and stuff uh ruin my progress and basically my trusting in God, and that I can in turn use that to help inspire the other folks in my program in the city to keep fighting that same path. So that's what I would ask for.
I know that spiritual testicular kick of um making that progress and losing it. I've been there. Somewhere around 2006, there was this guy that I was a missionary and for a Bible camp, and he was one of my biggest supporters. And he's like, "Hey, come here, let me talk to you." And he's like, "For the good of your family, good of your wife, you know, I didn't have kids yet." He's like, "Good of your future children, all these things." He's like, "I need you to do better." And he didn't sound like a douche when he said it, and all these things. It was genuinely loving.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Look, man, walk 4,000." He's like, "Walk 4 miles a day, a little over 10,000 steps. Don't drink any calories. Don't eat anything fried. Don't eat anything dairy. And just do that for me for whatever." And I'm like, and I was like, I have dad issues. I had like hardcore dad abandonment. So to have like a positive male figure like grab me by the shoulder, I'm like, "Ah," like snotty tears and everything. And like, so I jumped into that, and I was just past newlywed, so like maybe first 2 years of marriage, and the first couple of years of marriage are hard,
Yeah.
and it's that whole learning who you are thing, and I think I straight up used physical fitness as like, okay, I can run from having to deal with this,
Mm.
and I went ham. I walked 4 miles a day and then went to the gym and consumed 1,500 calories a day. And dude, I lost 170 pounds in a year.
Wow.
Um, I was, when I started, I'm bigger than I am now, but I got down to 165.
Dang.
Um, and I legit look like Francis Chan's nerdcore brother. And and it was one of those things of like, that became my, I put more faith and credibility in the fact that I got small
Mm.
than the fact that I was serving Jesus or that I was,
Mm.
becoming a father. Like, I hate sharing newborn pictures of my oldest daughter, because in my newborn pictures of my oldest daughter, I look like Francis Chan.
Mm.
And it's just like, yeah, let's just bypass the kid number 3 when I'm back. But um, I had a horrible life experience pop up. It wasn't a pandemic, but like, my middle child almost died
Mm.
after 3 days, and we spent 3 weeks of touch and go. Like, she could go at any moment.
Oh
Like,
gosh.
one of those things where I never left the hospital room for
Yeah.
3 weeks. And I don't know if y'all, I don't think y'all have them in New Mexico, but there's this restaurant called Cookout.
Mm.
It's a Southern thing. They put Bible verses on their cups. I mean, it's that kind of Southern, and but they have 32 milkshake flavors they mix together, and a combo is $5, and the combo sides, you get 2 sides per combo, and the combo sides include chicken nuggets, chicken quesadilla, a bacon wrap. Those are sides. You can get a corn dog as a side. Um, and so Cookout opened the same week that my baby almost died. And so people's like comfort things like, here, have this milkshake. Have this. So I spent 3 weeks of that, and like, I legit came out of there, and I'm like, I just like, my soul had been crushed. I was like, I don't have any desire to do
Mm.
any of this. And that literally started like, I was 100 and I was like rail thin for like 2.5 years, and then that started that, and I gained all of it back. And to
Mm.
go from 4x to medium to 4x ish
Mm.
again, it's just like, okay, I'm worthless.
Yeah, dude. No, I get it. Yeah.
But I just encourage you to, and just in that, the fact that we struggle doesn't make us less worthy of guiding others that struggle. It just means that we know we still have work to do.
Oh yeah, and you're absolutely right. And I've been told that, multiple times by people that have been doing this for years. It's just it's the stupid nagging thing in your brain. It's just like, you don't deserve this. You don't deserve to lead a ministry. You suck. Just can't get that out of your head sometimes. And yeah, that's what I have to fight. And I guess that's something I've fought my whole life. It's clinical depression's running my family, and so
Oh yeah.
I know my mom just has never felt worthy of anything, love, anything, her whole life. And I've really wanted to not, be that way. And so I've been fighting that, and I've been good. I was doing really good until COVID, man. I was doing so good.
And that's the thing. COVID, I got to the place where I was happy just being my thick self, because I'm
Hmm.
healthy. My doctor said, you have the best cholesterol of anybody I've had in my office.
Oh, dude, that's how I've been my whole life too. And that was my excuse for not ever trying. Like every time I go to the doctor, well, you're overweight, but I mean, everything's fine. So,
It's so it's like, well, I don't need to do anything. It's like, I'm
right, yeah,
thick, but I'm
it's my
hefty.
excuse.
I'm healthy. I'm not. No, I didn't mean to say hefty. I said healthy, but there you go. Um,
Hefty and healthy. That's what
Hefty
I
and
am.
healthy. That's my new
Double
podcast.
H.
Uh, Coming to LTN radio at 2 a.m. on Friday. Bring your ice cream. Um, but I had to do that too with just during COVID, because, and I know I've shared this before, but like, 2019 was on paper the biggest success year of my life.
Mm.
Um, I won a 40 under 40 award for community leaders in North Carolina.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I remember
I
seeing that.
had that. I got to be a guest at San Diego. I mean, it's just like I had so many good things happen in
Mhm.
2019, and then 2020 was what 2020 was, and I started like, I traveled more in 2019 than I've ever traveled, and I had all these big plans for 2020, and then I have 3 daughters, and all of the schools shut down in March and never reopened.
Mm.
Still haven't reopened. Um, I am 6 weeks away from 1 year of homeschooling for a year when I
Ugh.
wasn't planning on it,
Yeah.
and, I started to balloon so bad, uh, with my weight just going up, and so I had to start, like, just not to lose weight, but just not to gain more. I had to start intermittent fasting.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, and that's one of the main things that helped me last year. Yeah.
and so just eating from 12 to 8 and not eating past that has been huge. And then um, our church does this thing every January. We start off the year with prayer and fasting.
Mm.
And if you're on, we encourage the whole church, but if you're on staff, you're required.
Really?
Yeah.
That's bold.
Oh, no, no, no. You don't know how bold. My first year, which was about 6 years ago, um, like, our leadership's changed hands a few times.
Mhm.
My first year, dude, um, the pastoral staff, which included me, was required to do a week of just water,
A week?
of just water.
Holy moly.
And, so that was my first year on staff. I'd been on staff for 5 months, and they required a week of just water, and I made it, but my wife said, "Never again." She's like, "You were the absolute worst. I almost left you." My
Yeah.
wife was like, "I could not take you doing that ever again. So you either need to quit this church or never do that again because our marriage won't survive it." And and but so I've learned my lesson. I don't try and do a week of water like other people on my team still do. I'm like, screw you guys. I'm like, I don't care. That doesn't bring me close to Jesus. That weakens my faith. Um, but I did 3 weeks of Daniel fast and intermittent fasting.
Mm.
So just vegetables and water and only from 12 to 8. And you know, I started losing weight and I'm like, "Yay, oh wait, that's not what I'm doing this for. Crap."
Mm. Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like, our fast ended on Sunday and my wife started cooking normal food again. And I'm like, "Oh no." It's I'm gonna gain it all
Wait,
back.
stop.
That was the thing. I was like, do I really just want to eat more carrots, or am I going to take this cheesy pasta and be happy?
Oh
Um,
gosh, pasta, dude.
but
Oh,
just that's super rabbit trail, but it's good
yeah.
conversation. Dude, I'll be praying for you, and I just want to, I've told you, and I've mentioned it other places and everything else, but I genuinely appreciate your wisdom and your leadership and your ridiculous work ethic when it comes to serving in the ministry community. And I know you don't get paid for what you do, and I don't think I don't think the LTN budget could even collectively cover the amount of work you put into this.
Oh yeah,
Um,
no. And to be
uh,
clear, I agreed to this. I mean, this was my idea to
Oh
begin
yeah, I
with.
was like, this was totally your sales pitch, and nobody's beating you to death to do this, but
Right.
like, um, you put more work into this than a lot of people put into their actual paid positions, and
Mm.
I appreciate that effort and I appreciate that hustle, and I'm grateful for all the touches you are making across all these varying places. And it's just weird, like it's one of those things you don't know how much effectiveness you're doing. And I'm not going to do that pastor thing to give you credit for this where I don't know that it's you, but like um there's this girl that came to Christ in my collegiate ministry because she found Social Club on an online radio station. Now, I don't know that it was your station,
Sure,
so I'm not
but
going to
that's
say
cool.
that. It'd be good for promos, but but like she came to Christ because of Social Club, and she got clean from drugs because of Social Club,
Oh
and
wow,
like I got to be part of her baptism and everything else, and it was just nuts because literally she stumbled across an online radio station that was playing Social Club, and literally her whole life changed. She's one of the biggest leaders in one of our church campuses, period. And it's nuts. And,
that's awesome.
that's
Yeah,
one.
that's something I didn't really touch on, but yeah, I mean that the feedback has been a big deal for the last 3 years. Is we've gotten a lot of people who have sent us, me and Mo, direct messages about how much both the shows, but the radio station itself has been such a big blessing to them, and that's that's what we love to hear more than anything else. Is we helped you, whether you're a believer or not. If we were able to put a little bit more encouragement and um, one of the things, and I'm sorry, I'm going to get on a quick tangent.
Do you think, bro?
And this is where I start
I
to
can
sound
always
like
split this into 2 episodes if I have to.
where I start to sound like I hate Caleb again. But Caleb's thing has always been positive, encouraging, Caleb. And I mean, yeah, yes, you definitely want to be positive, you definitely want to be encouraging. But in my opinion, for most of their content, they take it too far out of reality. They take it into Christian movie territory where just everything is completely glossy and Jesus and puppies, and everything is easily wrapped up in 30 minutes. And it's a thing where we take the grit and the reality out of life. We play NF, we play Social Club, we play uh artists that talk about real, honest, rough struggles. You know, there's several tracks on our radio station that I wouldn't want my little kids to listen to because it's real. It's a legitimate thing about the struggles, and they use the actual words. It's not just some vague problem. That a lot of K-Love songs talk about. If there's ever someone that has a problem on a K-Love song, it's just some vague thing of some,
Dark
thorn in my side.
Valley,
Yeah, Dark Valley.
Storm,
um,
Shadow.
right. But this is real music, and to hear someone else struggling, I think that's why NF is so popular, because he doesn't whitewash anything. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and his heart is full of a lot of crap that he has to get out. And that touches a lot of people who are struggling with that same stuff, thinking, oh gosh, it's okay to be a Christian and struggle with this stuff.
I
It's
know so
okay to be
many
a Christian.
non-Christians that listen to NF, and it weirds me
Absolutely.
out.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest form of music ministry, when you can pull in Christians and non-Christians, and you don't even, they don't even realize they're being implanted with religious ideas on how to respond to these things, and how to rely on God, and how to deny yourself, and how to not push yourself up, but instead to push God up, without it actually being just this hymn in disguise, this praise worship song in disguise, but about being a real response to this world and to God. And that's something that I think is lacking in a lot of Christian music in general, but definitely in mainstream radio. And another one of the reasons we want to keep doing this. And so, yeah, those kind of stories, there needs to be an outlet for it. Of course, there's millions of people that have been encouraged by K-Love, and the right song played at just the right time. They air all those on on the station all the time too when people call in. But there's also a whole nother section of this community that need to hear it's okay to go through crap. It's okay to not be okay. God's still there.
Can you
And
imagine how small the book of Psalms would be if we only played this stuff where David was happy?
for real. And that's the best. Yeah, that's the best explanation of that you could have given right there. Exactly. There is a time for both the mourning and the anger and releasing all that, and the joy and the devotion. Those can go hand in hand. I know we've focused our music a little bit. We used to play like everything in the Christian genre when we first started, And one of my favorite like reviews that was given on Twitter was like, this radio station just played Avalon followed by Disciple, and it works. And I'm like, that's great. That's exactly what we've been saying this whole time.
Avalon, though.
Yeah, I just can't. Yeah, it's good. Point of Grace followed by Red. You know, it's just there's no
Sandy Patty to Toby Nwigwe.
But no, we're a little more focused, a little more not as jarring of switches between genres anymore. But still, that's been the calling, the ministry aspect of the radio station. You know, can you tell that I've been stuck in a house for 2 weeks and not been able to talk to anybody for a while except my own children? Because I will not shut up today, will I? I just ramble on.
It's good, bro. That's what we're here for. And for the people that actually listen to this, they're here for that too.
Hey, I do have one more prayer request. My wife is pregnant, and she's just in her second trimester. So if you could just lift her up and that the baby is healthy and everything goes well, that'd
Absolutely,
be great.
dude. Well, man, I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up here. And I want to thank you for your time. If people want to find the station, go ahead and give us all the linkies. Where did they find it?
LTNonair.com. All the socials at LTN on air. And on your phone, you can download an app called Live 365. And then just search and favorite LTN radio. And once you favorite it, it'll put that right at the beginning whenever you open the app. And then on your Echo devices, you can enable the LTN radio skill and then just ask Alexa to play Love Thy Nerd. And it'll rock your house down. So
if they want to give specifically to the radio station or you and your focus with this or anything, is there a way to do that?
Yeah, they've been having trouble getting us on the list for the specific LTN giving thing. So what you have to do is go to give.ltnonair.com, and that'll open Love Thy Nerd's giving portal, but it'll specifically have LTN radio in the focus of what you're giving to. And so, yeah, that's the way to give, to donate to the radio station specifically. give.ltnonair.com.
And for y'all that are watching this on YouTube or Facebook, the details of that will be posted in the comments. And if you're listening to this on just an audio platform, you can go to faithandfandom.podbean.com and all the info will be there as well. Also, just want to take a minute to say thank you to our Patreon supporters for your awesome sauce. And for everybody that listens, please share, like, rate, review, all those things. And thank you so much for joining us. And Matt, seriously, dude, thank you for giving me your time. I know that we're trying to get together, and I know the world's sucked and COVID and everything else, but I'm grateful for you, man. I really am.
Yeah, man, this feels like this was long overdue. I'm very, very honored to be on your show and to do something more direct with you. So thank you very much for having me on.
It's better than me just sending you an MP3 and then disappearing into the shadows.
Just like a little devotional fairy. Just drop it in and
I'm devotional
off
bay.
to work.
That needs to be a sticker or a shirt. Let's do that. Devotional bay. All right, y'all. Thanks so much, and we hope to see you soon.